At exactly 0300 hours, a Tomahawk cruise system rises from the vertical launch cells of the USS Gravely and races toward the Zagros Mountains. The booster separates, the turbofan comes alive, and the low-flying system drops to just 50 feet above the surface of the Gulf. 4 seconds later, the next cell opens. Then another. Then another. The largest operation in the region has begun, and the IRGC is about to receive a very expensive lesson in American reach. Within 90 seconds, 8 Tomahawks are already away. 300 miles to the northwest, other destroyers are repeating the same sequence. Deep inside the Ogab-44 underground complex, Iranian commanders believe they are untouchable. Hidden behind hundreds of feet of granite, they see their underground city as an invisible fortress. What they do not know is that every mobile launcher they rely on is already revealing its exact location to the sky through covert tracking beacons. While they watch their screens, a hidden device placed earlier by an Israeli operative sends a precise coordinate to an OFEX-16 reconnaissance satellite orbiting 300 miles overhead. What happens when you realize you have been watched, mapped, and outplayed before you ever reach for the launch button? For months, Israel's Unit 8200 has been playing a dangerous game in the shadows. Long before a single system was prepared, deep cover assets had reached the base and quietly attached ultra-miniature GPS beacons to the chassis of the IRGC's most valuable equipment, the Heavy Transporter Erector Launchers. These are not ordinary trackers. They are passive, silent, and almost impossible to notice. They remain in a low-power sleep mode until the exact moment they are needed. At 0308 hours, the moment the U.S. Navy Command gives the signal, the beacons activate with a single pulse. The satellite does not simply see the mountain. It sees the hidden missile city from the inside out. It identifies the exact bay, the exact tunnel, and the exact location of every transporter launcher concealed within the Zagros range. The isolation Iran had relied on, the so-called air gap separating the complex from the outside world, suddenly means nothing. Once your position is known, the thickness of the walls no longer decides the outcome. It is the ultimate tactical irony. It is like hiding someone in a basement, only to realize an AirTag was already slipped into their pocket. Every move the IRGC makes is now visible. Every time a driver shifts a vehicle, even an inch inside the tunnel, the OFEX-16 updates the targeting picture in real time. On the screens aboard the USS Gravely and the USS Carney, these massive launch platforms, once considered impossible to locate, have become glowing green markers on a digital map. At 0312 hours before the Tomahawk wave reaches the coastline, the Iranian air defense network prepares to come alive. Deep in the Zagros Mountains, the Ogab-44 complex depends on a sophisticated fiber optic network to send target data to its Bavar 373 batteries. But for that data to move, the entire complex needs constant, high-volume power. The Israeli Air Force is not wasting valuable systems on hardened concrete bunkers built to withstand near misses. Instead, it goes after the one thing the entire network cannot function without: energy. A pair of F-15I rams, operating under strict emissions control to stay off hostile screens, reach their release point near the Iraqi border. They are not aiming for the launchers. They are aiming for the power nodes. Under the wings of the rams, Rampage supersonic systems ignite and accelerate toward the high-voltage transformer substations surrounding the Ogab-44 complex. These are not standard payloads. They are kinetic penetrators designed to overwhelm critical infrastructure through speed, impact, and structural failure. Moments later, a chain of blinding flashes rolls across the mountain range as the substations are taken offline, one after another. The grid fails instantly. Inside the Ogab-44 control rooms, the lights cut out. The primary fiber optic network, the backbone of what Iran believed was an untouchable defensive system, falls silent. The Iranian commanders are forced to react at once. They activate the facility's emergency backup generators, a decision that becomes their next critical mistake. These massive industrial generators are not quiet. As they struggle to power the internal systems of the underground complex, they release huge streams of superheated exhaust into the freezing mountain air. To the people inside the bunker, it feels like survival. To the long-range infrared sensors of the Israeli Oren AEW and C aircraft, it looks like a glowing signal flare. The ghosts inside the mountain are no longer hidden. They are now bright thermal signatures, standing out sharply against the cold terrain and perfectly marked for the low-flying cruise systems already approaching at Mach 0.7. The power grid was never just a utility, it was the nervous system of the entire complex, and Israel has just cut the connection. At 0500 hours, the Iranian underground defense network is barely holding together on backup power, but the Ogab-44 command staff is still operating. They are urgently trying to realign their Bavar 373E launch platforms, hoping to regain a track on the incoming Tomahawk wave. They believe they still have one final chance to protect their underground missile city. Instead, they are about to meet the digital side of Unit 8200. From a secure high-bandwidth relay somewhere near the Jordanian-Iraqi border, the Israeli intelligence unit launches a red code signal operation. Through a carefully prepared command channel deception, they slip into the IRGC's satellite-fed command and control uplink. The system does not simply go offline. It begins feeding its own operators false certainty. Every fire control terminal inside the OGAB-44 bunker receives a high-priority authenticated alert. The screens flash with a bright crimson emergency maintenance status. The message is direct, urgent, and perfectly formatted. Immediate systemic anomaly detected. All transporter erector launcher batteries must stop refueling, begin emergency shutdown, and withdraw to hardened depot sectors for inspection. It is a masterclass in psychological pressure, using the enemy's own rigid top-down command structure against itself. The result is pure confusion. Iranian crew commanders, trained to trust automated diagnostic alerts without hesitation, pull the master switches on their mobile launch platforms. Hydraulic lines hiss as the massive Bavar 373 trucks lower their launch assemblies. Vents are sealed, fueling lines are disconnected, and the crews, convinced they are following a life-saving emergency order, begin the long, slow process of moving their vehicles out of the protected bays. One by one, the launch platforms leave the tunnel exits and roll onto the exposed supply roads of the desert plateau. They are no longer hidden inside a concrete mountain. They are now metal silhouettes moving in a line across open, barren terrain. From high above, the Israeli Oran A, EW, and C sensors track every vehicle as it clears the tunnel mouth. The radar picture is clean, steady, and impossible to ignore. At 0630 hours, the IRGC command finally realizes the red code alert was a hostile deception. Panic spreads through the command network. In a desperate attempt to take back control of the airspace, they order a rapid scramble of their remaining aircraft. From the hardened revetments of Mehrabad and Tabriz, flights of MiG-29s and F-14s thunder into the sky. Their radar systems come alive at full power, sweeping the darkness as they search for the incoming Tomahawk wave. And that is exactly what the F-35 I-Adir flight has been waiting for. The Adirs have been operating in complete silence, watching the airspace without revealing their position. They do not need to rush. They do not need to announce themselves. They do not even need to engage first. The moment the Iranian aircraft activate their radars at full strength, they expose themselves. Every signal, every sweep, every burst of energy becomes another point on the invisible map already forming in front of the Israeli pilots. The trap is no longer being set. It is already closed. As the Iranian fighters begin to lock on, the F-35 I-Adir flight activates the override protocol. This is not ordinary signal interference. It is a deep digital intrusion into the Bavar 373 fire control data links and the aircraft identification systems themselves. The Adir's AESA arrays release a carefully shaped electromagnetic waveform, one designed to imitate the signature of an American F-35. But hidden beneath that signal is something far more dangerous, a silent layer of corrupted information that alters the target acquisition packets feeding into the Bavar 373 radar network. Inside the OGAB-44 bunker, the radar screens turn into a storm of false signals and flashing warnings. The Adir flight digitally marks the Iranian MiG-29s and F-14s as incoming hostile cruise systems. Inside the Iranian cockpits, warning alarms erupt. Ground controllers shout for an intercept, but the Bavar 373 network, now operating on compromised sensor data, begins treating the Iranian fighters as the most urgent threat in the sky. For any pilot, it is the worst possible scenario. Your own air defense system no longer recognizes you. Above the Zagros Mountains, the atmosphere turns into complete disorder. The Bavar 373 batteries, automated and blind to what is really happening, launch their Sayed 4B interceptors toward their own aircraft, the F-35. I-Adir flight simply watches from a silent orbit. No dramatic radio calls, no sudden moves, no need to open the internal weapons bays. The Iranian air network is being pulled apart by its own systems, while the Adir pilots remain invisible, guiding the chaos without ever revealing their hand. At 0830 hours, the Iranian air defense network is in collapse. Their interceptors are grounded, scattered, or disappearing from the sky, while the bunker command staff is frozen by conflicting system alerts. The underground missile city is now fully exposed, trapped inside a digital glass box. High above the clouds over Jordan, the Israeli Oran Eitan airborne early warning aircraft becomes the eyes of the entire coalition. It silently coordinates the picture, collecting the battlefield data and shaping it into a single live targeting map. Through a secure, low-latency Link 16 cross-domain bridge, The Oran-Eitan sends a continuous real-time fire control feed directly into the combat systems of American B-1B Lancer bombers circling near the Iraqi border. At 0835 hours, the B-1B pilots do not need to activate their own radar. They do not need to rely on their targeting pods. They are moving dark, quiet, and nearly invisible. On their flight displays, the target data gathered by the Oran-Eitan and verified by OFEX-16 appears with unsettling precision. Every transporter erector launcher that had been tricked into leaving the bunker is outlined in a sharp, glowing box. It is Israeli vision paired with American reach. The B-1B Lancers arrive at the release point. Their weapons bay doors open, and in a coordinated sequence, they release a wave of GBU-31 JDAM precision-guided munitions. These 2,000-pound systems do not simply fall from the sky. They correct their path with GPS guidance, calmly adjusting toward the coordinates provided by the Israeli Airborne Command Network. The result is immediate and decisive. Across the Zagros Plateau, the exposed Iranian transporter erector launchers, still believing they are moving towards safety, are caught in a sequence of precisely timed high-impact strikes. The JDAMMs land with such accuracy that entire mountain road corridors are cut off by cascading rock slides, leaving the remaining Iranian vehicles trapped between collapsed routes and open desert terrain. The Oran-Eitan system is no longer just providing data. It is delivering complete situational awareness. As the B-1B Lancers turn away from the area, their crews watch the aftermath unfold on their tactical screens. One by one, the green markers representing Iranian launch platforms disappear beneath rolling clouds of dust and flame. At 10:30 hours, in one final act of desperation, the remaining ARGC fast attack naval units and hidden coastal cruise missile batteries receive the order to launch. It is a last-chance swarm maneuver, a chaotic mass release intended to overwhelm the U.S. Navy's defenses and force the American ships to pay a heavy price. Dozens of anti-ship systems rise from their rails and speed toward the USS Gravely and the USS Carney in the heart of the Gulf. The response is immediate. This is where the Aegis Baseline 10 system, supported by the high-fidelity tracking of the SPY-6 radar, transforms the battlespace into a fully automated defensive web. The U.S. destroyers do not need to wait for slow decision cycles. Operating in autonomous intercept mode, they react faster than any human crew could. The sky above the Gulf fills with white-hot streaks as the USS Gravely and the USS Carney launch a wall of RIM-162 ESSM interceptors. These interceptors do not simply meet the incoming threats. They track, adjust, and close in with the cold precision of a machine built for one purpose. At the same time, far beyond the horizon, Israeli Arrow 3 interceptors lift from mobile batteries in the Negev. Connected to the U.S. Navy's Link 16 network, they cross into the engagement picture and move toward the higher trajectory threats. It is a layered, three-dimensional defensive chain built to catch anything that tries to slip through. Not a single Iranian missile reaches the defensive perimeter. The swarm tactic, which Tehran had spent decades and vast resources developing, is broken apart in less than 5 minutes. Then the final low-flying cruise systems enter range of the Helios platforms mounted aboard the destroyers. Silent beams of focused energy reach out across the airspace, cutting through the incoming metal with surgical precision and forcing the last threats to fail before they can close the distance. The sky clears. The swarm is gone. At 1200 hours, the radar screens aboard the USS Gravely and the USS Carney fall quiet. The chaotic wave of Iranian missiles has been replaced by drifting debris scattered across the Gulf. The Agheb-44 underground maze is sealed. Its reinforced tunnel entrances are shattered and buried beneath thousands of tons of collapsed granite. The strategic damage is overwhelming. Most of Iran's ballistic missile capability has been taken out of operation. The remaining transporter erector launchers caught in the open during the failed maintenance withdrawal now sit disabled along the desert highways. In Syria, long-range reconnaissance sensors detect Russian-supported aircraft making an emergency turn to the north. They have seen enough. The imbalance is no longer theoretical. It has just been demonstrated in real time.